Today I want to talk a little bit about taking a small drawing and expanding it into a big piece of art, and also adding some color into the mix, which is something I've wrestled with a lot, and I've learned a few things along the way, and I'm going to tell you everything I know. So stay with me if you want to hear a little bit about how I do this. Step one is that I prepare my bit of wood. This is plywood from B&Q. And I've completely sealed this, and you can seal it with Gesso on matte medium, so that none of the acids from the wood will seep through into your finished artwork. Then I completely wet the paper that I'm going to be doing the drawing on, and I lay it on top of this wood, and then I stick it on to the wood with this gum tape. And I don't know if you've ever done any paper stretching before, but this gum tape is not sticky until you wet it. And then I just use that, lay it around the edge like this, and I give it a couple of layers just to hold it firmly in place. I've always had this love for Da Vinci's drawings, so in this picture, I was aiming for this kind of aged paper look, and some of my favorite artists are using this kind of tainted background, or what do you call it, stained background. So I wanted to kind of ink stain the background, but I wanted some colors to shine through. So I started out with layering quite a lot of splashes of color in my favorite colors, some pink and some turquoise in the background. I'm just using whatever I've got, Artesa acrylic colors, and mix it with medium and water and just make splashes of it in the background. Then the next step is to go over all of that with some gesso and kind of bring it back to whitish. And then after that, and you still see some of the color shining through, I then mix up quite a watery wash of ink. I mix this ink with water and with a little bit of red. I've got this antelope brown here, and just use a little bit of red. Any kind of red will do. And then I get that real like aged walnut stain color. But I mix it up, then I put a wash of that over this white texture. And then once I've got all of that layered up, I start spraying it with water, or you can drizzle some salt on it, and then it'll start to give you these textures. So the next step is really important, and I got this wrong, and that is to place your figure where you want it to go. And I made the mistake of doing it all by eye and very kind of free and flowy. And I had a great day working on the picture, but then decided at the end of the day that there was no fixing it. I had just placed that figure a little bit wrong, and I needed to just wash the whole thing away and redo the background stain and just start over. And that's what I did. And I'm happy I did, because I was so much more happy with how I placed the figure after I had made that mistake. So second time around, I paid a lot of attention as to where I placed the figure, making sure that I could get his arms long enough and slender enough in the picture and everything. And as a little tip, you can download this app called Projector. I don't feel like it's very useful when it comes to tracing your pictures on. It's made for that, but it's actually very useful in order to get a feel for if you're really way off with your sketches and your outlines, or if they are where they are drifting off and where they are okay. So I'm going to show you a little screen record of how I used it and just managed to correct my mistakes a little bit on the go and just get the outline bang on, so I can really enjoy the fun part, which is shading and playing around with the glow and the feel of the picture. I didn't use the tracing tool in the Projector app but I just find it really useful to hold it up and just check your image and see if you've placed it correctly. I think it's really good to challenge our brains to wrestle with the proportions and trying to get it placed in by eye and not with the use of mechanical means. I just think it adds different kind of quality to the image to really wrestle with it. And that's why I did the whole thing by eye first, cleared it away and started again and did it by eye again, but made sure this time I really took my time to place this thing correctly before I moved on to the next step, which was the shading part. The next bit is probably the most challenging part for me, that I really want to bring the looseness of my small drawings up into a bigger scale when I work on something like this. And oftentimes I find when I start out the process, I really like the unfinished sketch. And even now, as I watch back the footage of me drawing, there is part of me that just really like it in its more unfinished stages. So it's always this balancing act of figuring out how finished versus how unfinished do I want this thing to be. Because there's something about the lightness where the drawing is quite smoky and it's almost as if it's being done, it's happening, it's in the process, that it awakens something in me. It's something about that I love, but I haven't quite got the words for yet. But it's that feeling of movement that is going on a lot in the early stages of a picture. So, but I'm quite happy with how this picture is going, even though it's moved on, you know, as I see here behind me, to a more finished version. That it's still got some of the transparency and some of the layers from the background shining through, and that's always something I'm really aiming for. So in order to keep it loose, I think that one of the best advice is to walk away. And if you're anything like me, you really enjoy it so much so that you get stuck, and before you know it, you have finished this thing. And you look back, I look back over my footage and I see the earlier stages, and sometimes I regret that I didn't just walk away and just think about, maybe I should just leave it, or leave certain things and keep those unfinished qualities a little bit. But that's just me, because I really love sketches, and I've always loved the more unfinished works of the masters, the bits where you just see them explore. But my final point on my list for this video today is to think about what meaning you want to add to the picture. So today I'm about to start on the final part of this process. This picture is not finished yet. I want to start collaging butterfly wings onto this drawing. And I've been drawing butterfly wings on rice paper, and I'm gonna redo this because it got a little bit murky. So I will be sitting down with rice paper and my charcoal materials and just drawing these butterfly wings. And once they've been sprayed, I'm going to collage them onto this picture with something called cold wax medium. This is just the best for collaging. It works really well with rice paper. It takes a while before it dries in, but this medium is also the perfect way to seal my pictures at the end. So I love to use this to collage rice paper. So I will actually just take my butterfly wings and use this matte medium. It comes out, it's quite stiff when it comes out of the pot. I'll show you. And you just put that on to your rice paper and start collaging that onto your drawing. That's the process that I'm using, and I love how collaging bits over the top of the drawing at the end gives me an opportunity to think about the meaning of the picture. And for me, in this case, just I kept seeing the picture of this guy kind of covered in butterflies, like turned into this kind of butterfly tree, and it was these monarch wings that I kept seeing. And so I decided I'm just gonna go with that instinct and do this. It's a contrasting of these very fragile, beautiful wings up against the strength of the figure. And I think you can read it in as many ways as you like, but I think I'm reading it in a way that this picture is all about embracing vulnerability, and that I think the true strength of the male is found in also embracing your vulnerability. So I hope you enjoyed this video today and this little snapshot into my process. This is kind of just a work in progress, not quite finished yet, but I will show you what it looks like once I'm done. I hope you got something good out of it, and please let me know if you're interested in any of the other bits I talked a little bit about in this video, such as making frames, stretching the paper, and creating the background and all this stuff. I can make videos on each of these subjects as well. So let me know in the comments if this is something you're interested in hearing about how I do. It took me quite a while and a lot of research, a lot of trial and error before I kind of found my way of doing it. I hope you'll check back in for more. I'll be back doing some smaller artworks again. I've just got this show coming, so I've been working on some bigger pieces, and I wanted to introduce that part of my process as well. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.